Hi, I'm Elise Winters, and I'm a Suzuki teacher in Austin, Texas, and I want to talk with you about a concept that I just discovered a couple months ago in the course of doing a little bit of research that impacts two very common problems in violin playing, and you've probably never connected these problems, but they actually have the same root cause. So the two problems that I'm talking about are when students open from the shoulder rather than of course from the elbow, which is what we want, and then the other problem, which seems unrelated, is when students' left hand always seems to be kind of like bunched up, and they might get the whole finger spacing correct when they're on the fingerboard, but their fingers always seem to want to return to this bunched up position. So these two problems come from the same source, and it's something called irradiation. This is something that bodybuilders and physical therapists are familiar with, and to demonstrate irradiation, what I'd like you to do is make a fist. Now, the muscles that are used to curve the fingers are located in the forearm. They're the flexors. And when you make a fist, you're using the flexors. And if you touch right here, you can feel those muscles working. Now, close your fist more tightly. What you'll feel is that now your biceps is also working. And then if you close your fist like as tight as you possibly can, what you'll feel is that now the muscles in your upper back as well as your pectoral muscles are contributing towards strengthening that fist into your tightest possible grip. So again, this concept is called irradiation, and what's going on is that your body is recruiting the strengths from the neighboring muscles in order to assist those smaller groups. And it also makes sense that if you're forming a fist, you need to stabilize the areas around because you're probably going to be doing something with that fist that involves load bearing or impact or whatever. So how this relates to violin is that when your students are holding a bow, they're using the flexors to form that bow hold. Now, when we make a bow hold, we don't want a death grip, but we also don't want spaghetti noodle on the bow. We want probably on the scale of 1 to 10, we want about a 4 on the bow hold. That is enough to cause your body to instinctively stabilize the wrist. So what that means is when you then go to bow, that wrist is a little stiffer than it otherwise would be, and the student, given that stiff wrist, has no choice but to open from the elbow because the elbow is far enough away to not be experiencing the impact of that muscle engagement down here at the end of the arm. Now, how that impacts the left hand is when you make a fist, you're obviously using the muscles that curve the fingers. Again, those are the flexors, but there's also muscles that are in the hand, and they're the muscles that cause your fingers to close and open. They're called the interosseous muscles because they're between the bones of the hand. So when you make a fist, both of those are engaged. When a student plays violin, in the left hand, what should be happening is that they engage the flexors in order to press the string down or even to curve their fingers at all, and they shouldn't be engaging their interosseous muscles. But in practice, what happens with some students is that they both engage together. So I have a series of exercises that I use to practice kind of separating out the muscle groups that we want from the ones that we don't want. And these are called my movement building blocks. And I'm going to share, I think, 3 or 4 of them with you right now. And then in a later video, I'll tell you how you can get access to the other ones because I want you to have all of them because they're super useful for your young beginners. So the first movement building block that I do is to hot cross buns, and we're just doing a bilateral movement of the arm to a steady beat like this. Ready, sing, hot cross buns, and you get the idea. The second one that I do, and this is really just building the basic body awareness, we're not really dealing with the grip part yet, is Skip to My Lou. And what we're doing on Skip to My Lou is we're building their knowledge of the difference between the correct and the incorrect motion. So the correct motion being this, the incorrect motion they're going to do is this. And they might fling their arm open, but they wouldn't do that on the violin. So we're going to keep that elbow bent just as though they're playing violin. So that one's going to go like this. Ready, sing, skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, and I tell them that they're bumping something behind them. So what that's doing is it's building a conscious awareness of the difference between the correct and the incorrect, and they can consciously switch between them because you need to have that ability to switch in order for when they're in the middle of doing the incorrect motion to be able to then make a quick adjustment or a quick course correction. So those are the first two movement building blocks that I do to address the elbow issue. And then the third one that I do, so first of all, I use a bow slide with a Post-it note on it. They slide up and down the bow, and that's really just kind of establishing the correct path for the bow. Now, for this particular part of the exercise, we're not going to use the Post-it note sliding up and down because I actually want to keep that position on the bow because I'm going to be exerting my fingers just slightly. I'm going to look for that firmness of about 4, and I'm going to actually slide the stick itself. So you want a stick that's long enough that they don't kind of fall off the end of their hand as they do the bow slide. I'm going to ask them to make their fingers kind of medium firm, not super firm, but also not super loose. And I want them to notice making their wrist loose while keeping their fingers firm. If you only ask them to loosen their wrist, what happens is their fingers will get super loose. So you actually have to train both the firmness and at the same time the looseness of the wrist. And it's nice to do that on a bow slide when nothing else is happening, because if they try to do it on the violin, there's so many other things going on that it's really hard to isolate that motion and not be distracted by the squeaking sounds that they're making because their bow is doing funny things. So I like to do it before they even get on the violin. Now, to address the left hand aspect of that, I use Yankee Doodle, and this is training a couple of things besides simply the interosseous muscles. First of all, we're strengthening the fingers of the hand. We're training the body awareness of having a flat knuckle across the back of the hand because that's going to allow them to reach that 4th finger. If this is bent over, which it wants to be bent over, then they won't be able to reach their 4th finger far enough to get that note in tune. So we're training them to keep these knuckles flat, and we're simply doing some little, I call it finger soldiers with their fingers, and that's on the verse. And then on the refrain, I'm doing a funny little thing, and this is getting to the earlier point. They're going to close their first finger square, and they're going to open and extend the other fingers. So what they're learning with this is to open the interosseous muscles, or release rather the interosseous muscles, and they're also learning to have only one flexor engaged while the other flexors are open. And of course, when we play violin, the first finger is in a pretty closed square while the other fingers are considerably more lengthened. And so this will give them that nice relaxation of the hand by separating out those two motions. And I also ask them to kind of wave their thumb around. So they're really moving all of the fingers except for that first finger square. And this is going to allow them, when they get on the violin, to have not bunched up fingers, have lengthened 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers, and have their thumb relaxed. Because otherwise, all the fingers are going to clench as soon as they clench, or as soon as they close that index finger. So here's how the exercise works. We're going to sing Yankee Doodle. Ready, sing, Yankee Doodle went to town, riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. Now we're going to square this one, do the refrain, Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Make sure the thumb is also moving, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Next hand, and we're not going to do them together because if we did them together, whichever hand they're not looking at is going to do it incorrectly. It's going to bend down like this, and we want to keep those knuckles flat. Ready, sing, Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Gooding, and there we saw a man and boys as thick as hasty pudding. Square the first finger, wiggle the other ones, and then we would do the refrain. So I hope that these activities are useful for your beginners. In the next video, what I want to talk about is the two different kinds of staccato, the difference between ballistic motion and controlled motion, and how knowing this and teaching it to your beginners can help them have not only a better staccato, but also a better legato. In the meantime, please click the button to the right of this video and register so that you get an email when the next video is released. And if you don't mind, take a moment and go back to the forum where you originally saw this video and just post a comment so that other teachers know that it was useful to you and that they can benefit. Thanks so much. It was great to be with you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.